Welcome to another episode of Washington in Focus. I'm Carlene Johnson, along with our investigative reporter for the Center Square, TJ Martinell, who wrote an article this week with some major concessions that came from the State Department of Ecology about a recent report on carbon emissions reductions. We had some folks from Washington Policy Center who had called out some numbers a while ago. And then this week came a major admission from Ecology, not something we get all the time. But TJ, tell me what, this was actually surprising to me that there was quite an admission that came out from Ecology that WPC was right in calling out the numbers.
Well, I mean, the thing is that Todd Myers had discovered internal emails like showing that they knew that these numbers were wrong. And it's funny how, I don't know, for people who are listening or watching, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Office Space, but that's what I was thinking about when I was reading all this stuff that Myers has been writing about, where a small detail change, but it's not a small detail. They were claiming that these projects, like this, there was this one project in the city of Ellensburg that they claimed reduced millions of carbon emissions, metric tons of carbon, and what was it, like a third of all carbon reduced by the entire CCA projects combined. And it's this one project. And the cost of reducing the carbon was $1 per metric ton, it's like a machine that is like 100% efficient, right? They don't exist, And so Todd Myers was pointing some of this stuff out. I wrote a story about it. And so now they're admitting that the millions and millions of carbon emissions that they claim were reduced was actually not the case. It was like only 78,000 as a result of these projects. So it's kind of the question is, how do you make that kind of a calculate? That's on a rounding error, right? Where you put the decimal point in the wrong spot. These numbers are nowhere near each other. And so the question is how, and I think the other thing that for someone who, if I was working for Ecology, now granted, this is not my profession, so I'm not sure how they do it. But if I was reading the report and saw several million metric tons of carbon reduced by a single project, if it was a $4.1 million project, I would be calling them up and asking two questions. One, either you guys have an awesome project and we want to emulate it throughout the rest of the state, or two, there is no possible way that number is accurate. Where did you get it? And it seems like Ellensburg's Public Works Department didn't create the number. So, or at least they're saying they didn't. So the question is, who did? But also, did it not draw any scrutiny? But I mean, the report was huge. It's a big report. So people might have just been plugging numbers and not really thinking about it. But I mean, we don't know. But what we do know is that the math didn't add up. So,
and what's important here is that if not, I think potentially for Todd Myers at WPC pointing this out, it may not have been revealed. I mean, granted, you've got the state now saying, yeah, we messed up the numbers. They're saying it was a data entry error. And so the numbers were wrong. But if not for him saying so, these are figures that get espoused over and over and over again in policy moving CCA stuff forward. And let's remind anybody reading or listening to this and our readers at the Center Square that there are a massive amount of taxpayer dollars going to CCA, whether you pay at the gas pump or at the grocery store, because the cost of goods to market is exponentially higher in Washington because of CCA. So these things matter. Right.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things. One is, this is what your taxpayer dollars are going towards. But on top of that, it really raises this question of, this is something that got caught because of an outside individual looking at it and saying this doesn't add up. So it's very possible and very likely that if Todd Myers hadn't seen this, and, we obviously covered his discovery and asked Ecology about it, this probably would have gone unnoticed. So the question is, how many other instances of these incorrect figures are there out there? And how are they shaping our public policies? I mean, it really it's kind of, I don't want to use the word dangerous, but it's serious because we could be having public policy decisions being set based off of statistics or data from reports like these from how many years ago where the numbers are actually not accurate. And so how do you have to be able to trust the numbers that you get, because it's like having somebody, on a battlefield, you're a general and you have messengers bringing you messages about, back in the day when communication was very primitive, and you have somebody giving you an estimated number of the troops that are coming on your flanks. You would have to rely on your messenger's ability to give you accurate information so you can make decisions about where you deploy your troops and where you position them and whether to attack or go on the defensive. It's the same thing here. You need to be able to get accurate information from state agencies on this stuff, especially lawmakers, because they craft laws and legislation in response to what they're being told. And so if imagine if there was a project that was really effective, but the numbers accidentally got changed or screwed up to where it didn't seem as effective as it was and we're not just talking about like carbon emission, but we're saying something that was done to reduce wildfire severity or improve certain forest areas. I mean, statistics are kind of dangerous in the sense that they have to have context and they have to be also accurate. So that's kind of what's being raised in this situation.
Well, and I think it's really important and that people understand the significance of this. And I very much appreciate Todd Myers and Washington Policy Center for staying on this, because we're talking about massive impact to taxpayers. And if in fact the policies that the CCA promotes to, change, we're going to reduce emissions and all this, if in fact that they can provide data that show it's working, you're paying this much more at the gas pump and you're paying this much more for your groceries every month and on your utility bill, but we can show it's doing this for the environment. Wonderful. Then people might be getting on board. But at this point, what we have is proof that they messed up the data, inadvertent, advertent, whatever. We can judge that later. The data was completely wrong. And if not for WPC, we wouldn't have the accurate data now. Right. That is hugely important because this affects policy and exponential amounts of taxpayer dollars in the state of Washington. And it's going to be in this coming session.
I think the thing, and this is all speculation, but what my guess is some number got screwed up somewhere, because I think the problem is that if this was a larger project and they were able to inflate, let's say it reduced a lot of carbon emissions, but it's a big enough number to where you can fudge around with it a little bit. But this is a project where the difference in it was so glaringly obvious, at least to Myers and other people, that there's no way these figures can be accurate. So if someone was trying to be malicious, they probably would have picked another project that wasn't going to get that much scrutiny. But again, it's a question of what actually happened. Was there some sort of software error that didn't plug the numbers in right? Was it a technical or a technology problem, or was it somebody just not paying attention? I mean, that's where
I have to say, TJ, if they had agreed, but if they also had data for projects that show what they're doing, that prove the success, let's see it. We're not seeing that. What we saw was a project where they had data entry errors and those are not accurate. I find it hard to believe that if they did not have projects that were proven success for emissions reduction based on CCA funding, that would not be top line stuff. That's what we're waiting to see. We haven't seen that
yet. Yeah. So we'll be obviously looking.
Oh man. I'm so glad you're all over this. I really appreciate your coverage of this. And for readers, for watchers, for folks interested in this, I encourage you to go to thecentersquare.com/Washington. He is TJ Martinell. I'm Carlene Johnson. This has been another episode of Washington in Focus.